The cops told me you guys are looking for a record contract. There's something going on here we gotta take immediate advantage of, guys. Come on, let's talk, huh?
Yeah, what's that?
What's that? Will you look? This is hot. You guys are the hottest thing since Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Marky Mark, man, that guy sucks.
Okay, forget Marky Mark. There's magic out here, guys. Let's talk contracts. I promise you, someday we're gonna be backstage at the Forum laughing about this.
All right, let me ask you a question. What side you taking the big David Lee Roth Van Halen split?
What do you mean?
What kind of question is that? What side did you take, Halen or Roth?
Van Halen.
He's a cop.
Oh, come on,
Later,
guys.
Bacon.
Oink, oink.
It's strictly a judgment call. They sold a lot of records after Dave left the group. Come on, one more question. Hey, come on, Chance, one more.
Right. Who'd win in a wrestling match, Lemmy or God?
Lemmy. God.
Wrong, dickhead. Trick question. Lemmy is God.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. Thank you for tuning into Ruined Childhoods. You may be a subscriber, or I don't know, maybe you saw a podcast that was talking about your favorite movie, Airheads. Whatever brought you here, we're glad you're here. We appreciate that you're listening. My name's Dan, and my co-host there on the other end is John. How's everything going there, John?
Things are great. I'm going to be talking about Airheads for an hour. How bad could things be? I love this. I love this movie. It's so good. I feel like we need this after our last episode talking about the fucking bummer that is Saturday Night Fever, the highly dramatic bait and switch of a movie. So yeah, talking about Airheads, hell yeah, I'm in.
And this is funny, John. So, and just to give you a little context to our recording. So, it is Friday, April 14th. It is the afternoon, and I'm a teacher on spring break, and John has some time available this afternoon. So I texted him maybe, 15 minutes ago and was like, hey, want to do Airheads now? And he was like, give me 5, as in give me 5 minutes. We're too far from each other to give each other 5 right now, but yay. He put his hand up anyway. Anyhow, last night we recorded our episode on Saturday Night Fever, which, as we discussed in the episode, it just is a very dirty, gritty movie that just is very uncomfortable. And what's funny is this morning, my daughter who's 9, her friend was coming over for a play date, and her friend's mom popped in, and we were chatting, and I was mentioning that, we were, recording our episode last night about Saturday Night Fever. And she said, oh yeah, that's a fun one. And I was like, not so much. And
yeah, no.
And she was like, oh, but I was like, yeah. I was like, there's all the gang rape, and the kids were already upstairs playing. Sure. At that point. They weren't right there. But anyway, it was like, yeah,
it's not fun. It's not fun.
No, it's not. The dance scenes are fun, but even as we said, those are quite gritty, and yeah.
You're blowing up.
Yeah, no, that's my sorry, my good friend Scam, as in Scam Likely.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Anyhow, here we are. We're talking about Airheads from 1994, starring our recent Best Actor Academy Award winner, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. Brendan Fraser. Okay, so we've got Brendan Fraser, we've got Steve Buscemi, and we have Adam Sandler. 3 actors who are, definitely highly regarded for their acting talents, doing this movie where they're these 3 dumb metalheads. I mean, Adam Sandler clearly has a background where he plays buffoons, quite famously.
This was a good, let's see, a good 10 years before like Punch Drunk Love. So
Oh yeah, no, this was one of his very first movies.
not 10 years, 8 years. Yeah, it's 1994, so he hasn't even done Billy Madison yet. And
No, this is right
it's
before that.
appearances in movies like this and like Mixed Nuts.
Yeah. No, it's amazing that he's in a movie to begin with. He was just the SNL opera man.
He was Opera Man,
And-
right?
Yeah, and now he's in this movie where he's, one of the top 3 billed in this. And, Steve Buscemi, of course, has had since then has really become more of the Steve Buscemi that everybody knows for his, his prowess. Before then, he was definitely active, but like this was, I'd say, it's definitely before Big Lebowski and,
But
a lot of the other movies and
it is-
Fargo.
It's after Barton Fink. It's after.
Yeah, but
it-
also, yes, he was in Barton Fink, but
I want to
he's
say it's
not
after.
like
I
a
want to say it's
standout performance from
Well,
Barton
no,
Fink.
he's Chet.
Yeah, I
he's-
know. But still.
Yeah. I want to say he had some Reservoir Dogs had come before this.
Right, Reservoir Dogs, of course.
Interesting,
Yeah, yeah.
another LA set, heist movie.
But also, independent. It was not
Right.
going to be like, it's not a super. It ended up being, a cult classic, but
Right.
of course at the time.
Right. No. No, at this point it was mainly just like the Coen brothers films that he had done and whatchamacallit, the other I'm blanking on
You're
the
blanking
name
on
'cause
something.
I'm working from memory here.
And
Miller's Crossing,
let's-
Barton Fink, Hudsucker Proxy, I feel there was something. Oh, Reservoir Dogs, right? Yeah,
Reservoir Dogs.
Tarantino.
So, right, and then Brendan Fraser, who, as we know, had done School Ties before this, so has
Encino
definitely
Man.
done. Yeah, well, yes, he's done. I think a couple of roles where he plays Link, because he plays the role in Son-in-Law as well the year prior to Airheads. He, was in a couple of other things here and there, but was definitely more known for like Encino Man.
Yeah.
He, with honors was the same year as Airheads, but probably wasn't out when this was being filmed or anything, and that even still wasn't like a
I feel like
pivotal
those
movie.
must have. I feel like those might have come out around the same time.
Yeah.
Airheads and With Honors. I feel like they were both
And-
like spring, like
and
March,
talking about
April.
well, like also talking about 1994 for Brendan Fraser, we have his third appearance as Link, the missing Link, in the Army Now, and then it's kind of like a slight aside from his other versions. I think he just plays a soldier who it just happens to be the frog eating.
I didn't see
missing
it,
Link.
so
I saw it once, but then that's also the same year as The Scout with Albert Brooks, where he
Right,
plays
yes.
Steve Nebraska. That's a movie that we talked about briefly on another episode, actually in context of Adam Sandler, because Adam Sandler just had a movie called Hustler that came out, where
Right,
he's
yeah.
a basketball scout. So the two of them in their scouting movies.
So sorry, correction. Airheads was released according to Wikipedia August 5th, 1994. With Honors was before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
well,
you for clearing that up.
For what it's worth, With Honors, I think about that movie and I'm like, I just remember it being very kind of passable, and it had that Madonna song in it.
Oh. So, Airheads, I feel like they probably replayed it on Comedy Central 1,000 times
Oh,
and
yeah.
whatever. And I just remember watching it over and over and over again and loving it every single time. It's so much fun. It's silly. It's interesting talking about this one after we talked about Saturday Night Fever, where, we were talking about, they have some parallels in the sense that like, this is these are what's happening in these people's lives when they're not, in the spotlight. Where
Right.
where the Lone Rangers, the band in Airheads, they don't quite get to the spotlight, but it's their day-to-day stuff. We see these, three, rock
You
and
are
roll
frozen.
guys doing their day jobs. Pip, Adam Sandler's character, is a pool cleaner. Rex works at a toy store.
I missed like the last 30 seconds. You were frozen on my end.
I was spitting gold, brother. Well, why don't I go ahead and do a synopsis, and that'll kind of kick everybody up to speed with Airheads from 1994. Feeling like they'll never get the recognition they deserve, Los Angeles band The Lone Rangers are in a major rut, especially the band's frontman Chaz, whose girlfriend just kicked him out of their apartment. With a record deal in his crosshairs, Chaz is willing to make bold moves to achieve his dream. After he hears that another band they know got a record deal after getting played on KPPX Rebel Radio, Chaz, Pip, and Rex take their demo tape to the station to make their pitch to the coolest DJ in town, Ian, aka The Shark. In true Lone Rangers fashion, Chaz, Rex, and Pip break into the station to politely request that Ian plays their demo on the air. But when Milo, the station manager, tries to put an end to their shenanigans, the guys pull out realistic-looking toy guns that Rex got from his day job, a toy store. The rest of the day, the Lone Rangers are holding the KPPX staff hostage until their demands are met, an authentic record deal. And so we've talked about, of course, some of the main players in the cast, but we also have an amazing appearance. It's kind of like a little duo between Ernie Hudson and Chris Farley, who are the police officers on the scene. We have Michael McKean as Milo, which, a lot of people, when they bring up Airheads, also bring up Spinal Tap, another thing about kind of like, in a rut metal musicians. So it's great to see him as just like the douchey slick back ponytail station manager who's trying to convert their metal station into easy listening.
I feel like that was the character Michael McKean played in the mid-90s, because it's very similar to his
Brady Bunch
character in the
movie.
Brady Bunch. Yeah. Mr.
Well,
Dittmeyer.
he was so good. Yeah, Dittmeyer. He was so good at, playing so many different sides of things. He was great at playing like, the dumb pompous rocker, of course his days on like Laverne and Shirley. And then we have, this other version of him. I don't know if it's just like his look changed enough that he could transform then into the kind of just like the douchebag.
I think he's just always been underrated as someone who, as like when you talk about like your chameleon actors, you think of like Gary Oldman, but Michael McKean also, like, let's not forget he was also the dad in that movie Daryl, like, suburban, good guy dad. So like Michael McKean really, not to mention his work with Christopher Guest.
Christopher Guest.
Than in addition to Spinal Tap.
In addition to this is Spinal Tap, right? But also, just recently with his work on Better Call Saul, in which he showed really his serious acting chops, and just amazing. I mean, going back to Clue, also, just kind of like the seemingly clueless, just character,
Mr. Green.
It's hard to really describe because it changes. So anyway,
exactly.
But also, also in this movie, we have Judd Nelson as Jimmy Wing, who's the like, kind of the alt Milo. He's the record executive who's just like the all business, like slick back hair. I'm cool, but he's really not cool kind of guy. We have Michael Richards, who's the accountant at the radio station, who spends most of his time in an air vent doing a... on the phone, doing Die Hard, but he's on the phone with the SWAT officer.
Oh, what's his?
Marshall Bell.
Yeah, Marshall Bell.
Yeah,
who's talking about his brilliant? Which I don't know that I ever put it together before.
It's so good
that. I mean, as they put it together, and like he's talking about how his wife, like he caught his wife with the pool cleaner,
who's clearly Pip.
Yes. Well, I don't think,
if it's not Pip, then the fact that he discovers the
it's
van
Pip.
is a Pulkany van.
It's
you know,
Pip because
right.
they all talk about how Pip is such a ladies' man with his
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
with his kind of
and
dumb.
he hooks up with one of the employees at KPPX. Chaz's girlfriend Kayla is played by Amy Locane, as we have talked about on the School Ties episode. They are, at least between those two, regular collaborators.
I think Amy Locane is currently, a guest of the state of New Jersey in one of their fine facilities
Is that true?
for her drunk. I think I think she killed someone in a drunk driving.
Got it. Well, we've got David Arquette as the burnout dude that works at KPPX. Harold Ramis is in there as an undercover detective who's
2 out of 4
to,
Ghostbusters. To me, that's kind of like
amazing.
having 2 Beatles.
Yeah. And then you have these amazing cameos. You have Kurt Loder at the height of MTV. Speaking of MTV, we've got Beavis and Butthead, Mike Judge,
Right.
as Beavis and Butthead, as Colin. They're characters. They exist in the world of Airheads.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's no there's no acknowledgement of them as Beavis and Butthead.
Nope.
They are just callers.
Yeah, they're just people. Their voices on the phone.
They don't even say their
And-
names.
They don't know because
You don't need to. They didn't need to.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I mean Beavis and Butthead was out at this time. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
If you
Then
were
you
seeing
got-
that movie, you knew who Beavis and Butthead
Right.
were.
You have Rob Zombie, you have Lemmy, we have stuttering John Melendez. You know,
Right.
all of these amazing people performing these cameos. So it's so much fun. It's silly. It's got a great Brendan Fraser performance.
It's kind of just all around fun. It is
Yeah.
it's just kind of beginning to end. It is just entertaining. It's fun seeing Chris Farley in it, and there's this great arc.
Chris Farley playing kind of just like a straight a cop.
Yeah.
He's trying to do his job. He's not the the goofball.
Well, it's kind of like
It's goofy, but he's not the goofball.
It's kind of like his part in the first Wayne's World. The second Wayne's World, he's much more Farley.
I love how in Wayne's World
Much
he
less
plays two
restrained.
different characters between the two different movies. It's never acknowledged that he looks like the guy who worked for, the
Frankie Sharp.
Frankie
Sharp
Sharp,
Records.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you're just happy it's Chris Farley.
Yeah.
Sandler's great in it. It's I enjoy him. I generally enjoy Adam Sandler, but really enjoy him in this. Really enjoy just the vibe of the movie. And a lot of they take some risks in it. Because they definitely address the idea of race. They address the idea of privilege.
Sure, they definitely do.
They really. I feel like.
Oh, I gotta mention one of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see the original script for this movie to see if this is something that they came up with on the spot or something. But there's a moment where the cops and Chaz are getting into this whole back and forth. And in order to get the crowd to prove that the crowd is on their side, he starts chanting Rodney King. And my favorite part is when inside the building, we have Pip holding up a toy gun to some of the staff there. And I believe that in that moment, one of them at least is black. And they're just is he chanting Rodney King? And Pip just goes, yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah. It's so well, yeah, because there's the guy who's he's more of he's wearing is it a dashiki that he's wearing?
So this
Do I
is
have that right?
Marcus, who's played by Reg Cathy,
Yeah.
Cathy, who's definitely more of a, I guess, activist.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say I would say activist is definitely the word. Not militant.
Yeah, no.
No.
But he's he works at KPBX. He's a technician there.
Yeah. He's kind of, but he's one of those people who's just like, you leave me alone and let me do my job the way I do my job and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then all of this kind of just barges in on his piece. And he's also, and he's just kind of like rolling his eyes. And then there's also the woman, was it Yvette? Is that her name? Who's
Yvonne,
who's also black.
Played by Michelle Hurst. Yeah.
The other, I think they are the only two of the hostages who are black. And like when when Pip says to her, he's like, why don't black people like me?
Yeah.
And he's like, and he's trying to empathize.
Like, listen to a lot of rap music and
he's talking about, and he's like, yeah, no, I think it's just terrible about all this. And she's just like, he's like that when you walk into a store and people are watching you because they think you're gonna steal things, and she's like, I've never had that happen to me. Have you? But
it's kind of sweet because he's trying to connect and be empathetic, and this entire time, with the exception of Milo, they're not presenting themselves as being aggressive. Right. They have what appear to be real guns. They're just filled with hot sauce. And but to everybody else, everybody else is kind of into it, except for maybe Reg. He's not so into it. David Arquette's character, gets away, and then he wants to come back in.
A wonderful David Arquette performance.
It's a wonderful David Arquette performance. Everybody's great in it. It's so much fun. It
is exactly that. It's fun. But what I appreciated it this time around, watching it, in 2023, was how it didn't fall into the traps of a lot of 90s comedies, but it didn't shy away either. It addressed things. It was very, I felt that they anticipated a lot of like backlash and things that critiques that people would have about the story, such as, just the very like privilege of the plot, the whole
right.
Wow, we're a one in a dime a dozen band, who isn't getting famous, they acknowledge that. They don't play it off as like where everyone takes it, and that allows them to like then have this just like not a riot, but just like this party out there outside the station, which it's filmed in the same on the Fox Tower, right?
Yeah, Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah, Nakatomi Plaza. Yeah. So I love that it is conscious of that, and it pays homage there. Of course, it's Fox, so why wouldn't you? Yeah, I really don't have a negative word to say about this movie. Really.
Well, the critics had plenty of negative things to say about this movie.
Of course they did.
I mean, it's not a movie for critics. The critics who did enjoy it just point out how entertaining it is. And
Rolling Stone liked it, right?
Rolling Stone did, yes. Fraser and Buscemi are deadpan delights, and Sandler, Opera Man on SNL, is a red hot screen find. So, yeah, Rolling Stone liked it. Washington Post called it entertaining. San Francisco Chronicle called it a spoof on heavy metal culture that respects the vitality and pent up passion behind it, which is, of course. But, interesting. There are two reviews from Washington Post. One of them calls it heavily entertaining. Another says even Beavis and Butthead get to call in their critique. Naturally, they think the Lone Rangers suck. So, there's not a lot of love amongst the critics for it. And shockingly, on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is only 50%. I would expect that the audience score would have been higher for this one, because I feel like it is, a bit of a cult classic. I mean, it's a little movie from 1994. A year of big movies. It's certainly not expected to make a big splash, but we're talking about it today. It's come up in a lot of conversations during the most recent Oscar season, or award season, I should say, because there's been a lot of conversation between Adam Sandler and Brendan Fraser and reminiscing about their times and how much fun they had working on this movie and how big it was for them, because even though Brendan Fraser was in things before this, you know, he was still kind of new to the scene. And it was, you know, I mean, that guy, you could name just about any movie except for probably George of the Jungle, and you could probably look back on it with, you know, fond memories. Well, that's not true. Most of his movies, I'm sure he could look back on with with fondness. And
what about Blast from the Past? That's one that does not get spoken about that often, but I have fond memories of it. It was Brendan Fraser,
Silverstone.
Right, and he's in the bunker with Christopher Walken and Sissy Spacek, and right, and then he comes out, and I remember that being cute.
I saw some clips of it being shared around not too long ago online. People seem to have some fondness for it. You know, I think that's also just like he plays that like squeaky clean, you know, guy from the 60s or whatever, you know, that's sheltered from the world, fish out of water in the 90s.
Right. Yeah.
And so, he's definitely very endearing and that kind of thing. Yeah. But I find his character in Airheads so authentic. He brings a lot of really interesting qualities to the character that I don't know if they're necessarily like that in the script, but I don't know. He calls Milo like a penis. Like it's the way he pronounces penis is great when he's using it as an insult. So you know
I was thinking the same thing. I was gonna say the same thing about Buscemi's performance. I feel like Buscemi's, and I'm a fan of his work in other things that he's in. It's not that he feels unnatural in other movies, but maybe it's just the nature of this character, and that this character is really supposed to be like, he is the loose cannon of the three. And that that Buscemi just like, you know, goes to town with it, but it feels just natural. Like, I don't know. I totally buy it. He looks like that guy, like just like Brendan Fraser looks like that guy. Whoever that Chaz, that is who that guy is.
You know, Brendan Fraser at the time, you know, he had the physique to be able to pull off that, like, you know, hard rock frontman Sunset Strip vibe. You know, Steve Buscemi, you know, very slender and wiry, and you put the right wig, you put the right clothes on him, and you have an actor with a lot of talent. He can pull that off.
Well, it's like how that meme that has the picture of them from Airheads that says like Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, and like whoever the third guy is, and it's the three of them, like Lane Staley or something, and it's the three of them from Airheads, and it just works because they do feel very authentic to that specific they feel like a band that has come 5 years too late, and they even comment on that too, because they talk about that, you know, the Seattle crap, and you know, which by 1994 even that was kind of starting to although, you know, you wouldn't have known when this movie was being cut in earlier 94. You know, Kurt Cobain dies in April, and you know, that kind of, it's not like that music goes away. I mean, Pearl Jam is still
no, of course,
you know, they're amazing. You know, a monster. Not to mention the album Monster that was released in fall of '94 by REM. But yeah, but like the Lone Rangers.
I just have a question for you. Can you just like not help yourself sometimes?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Why should I? It's fine. But anyway, like even that music was kind of fading out. Yeah, the Sunset Strip
vibe was definitely at that point like really fading. And and it's also interesting, you know, you have what's going down at KPPX, and yeah, maybe the listenership is going down. Maybe they're not getting the kind of numbers that they need to survive because they play music that's just falling out of favor. And honestly, it's like that does make sense. They don't really talk about that, but that's just kind of the way that it is. And of course, you've got, Jimmy Wing from Palatine Records and, Judd Nelson's character. And, for him, the thing that makes the Lone Rangers enticing has nothing to do with their music. It has everything to do with their personalities. And for him, it's a really smart financial decision because, they've gone viral. They're on the news.
Right.
They're doing this thing that makes them famous. And it's like, it doesn't matter what their music sounds like. People are going to be into it because they know that these guys are nuts.
Yeah.
They're taking people hostage at a radio station, not causing any harm. They're not doing any, of course, holding somebody hostage is a really serious thing. And nobody knows that their guns are fake. But it's also in the interactions that they have with the public when they come out of the station and they show who they are, and they are making it also not that they're there to make a statement, but chanting Rodney King is it's getting people to understand like, oh yeah, they are frustrated with the way that the world is and the way that the, police are treating people. And, it's the perception, even though that's not at all what they went in there to do.
Although I thought that the whole Rodney King chanting thing was just to show kind of like how vapid this crowd of people are and how ignorant.
I thought that it was a way of just like, who do you think there's a whole mob of people here. Do you think they're going to be on your side or our side?
Okay.
And they chant Rodney King, and it's just like, oh yeah, shit, we're the LAPD.
I mean, I just felt like
up.
You got a crowd of I mean, like maybe not entirely, but let's just say a crowd of white people.
Yeah.
There, Ernie Hudson is like, the cop on the scene.
There is the guy who admitted to playing Dungeons and Dragons. He wasn't white, but
correct. Yes. Thank you.
Because the SWAT guy tries to discredit Chaz as a badass by finding his high school yearbook indicating that his name is Chester Darby, and and then Chaz is just like, yeah, so what? I was a total dork. I played Dungeons and Dragons and picked my nose and blah 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 blah, and everyone else is just like, yeah, I don't care. You're look at you now.
Yeah. It is really kind of a lame shot to try. It's
but I think that's also the kind of attempt that somebody who's out of touch with their generation and what they would pick up on, because it's a really interesting way of showing how times have changed and how perception of people has changed.
Yeah.
From one generation to the next.
So, John, I wanted to kind of, throw a little something extra here into the episode, into the mix, and inspired by the movie, I thought we'd perhaps have a little game, and this is not going to go too long, but taking a cue from Airheads, this is called Getting to Know Your Armed Assailant.
Well, Dan, that's what we called our episode where we were just it was just the two of us not talking about a movie. Do you remember that?
Oh, right. Yes.
We called it Getting to Know Your Armed Assailants.
Yes, we did. But now I am bringing now it is something else.
Okay.
I didn't think of that earlier. I just kind of was like, oh, fun. Let's do a quiz game where I will read a description. I will be speaking from the perspective of a someone, and I had to be kind of careful in this because I'm talking about hostage situations in movies here. Didn't want to get too serious here. So I'm gonna read a description, and you can guess The movie you could guess as specific as the character, perhaps. And I could even perhaps tell you if you're right about them.
Can this be a... Well, I guess I don't know exactly what the questions are. They're going to be asking like what the vibe is like, but is there like a 20 questions aspect to this? Where like...
so you can ask for hints. Like there are hints available. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I'm going to start you with an easy one. I think this is just to kind of give you a sense of how this is going to go.
Okay.
So here, I'm going to read the description and you tell me the movie, perhaps the character, the actor, whatever you want to tell me. So, I'm sick and tired of life in New York City. So my girlfriend and best bud and I are going to go rob a bank and then get out of town.
Quick change.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Graham, excuse me, is played by Bill Murray. Okay. Here.
Are you looking for the character or are you looking for the movie?
I don't have like strict rules. It's kind of whatever you know, however much you know. That's probably the only one where I could actually tell you the character name
got it.
Off the top of my head, so the movie would be fine. All right, so here we go. Let's try this one. I'm robbing this bank to get back at this rich asshole who profited from dealings with the Nazis.
I know that I know this. Oh, is it the 25th hour? Not the 25th hour.
I know you're thinking of the right thing.
Yes.
I inadvertently gave you a hint just now.
Oh no. Is it? Well, okay, because it's a Spike Lee movie.
Correct.
It's with Clive Owen.
Correct.
Oh my God. I'm blanking on the title of it.
Easy title to make, to turn it into a porn version.
That could be any movie, Dan. Look,
Inside Man.
Inside Man. Inside Man.
Okay. But you had like everything else. You had the Spike Lee, Clive Owen. My hint for that was going to be, the first wall I break in this movie is the fourth.
Oh,
it will not be the last wall I break.
No, but that's a great movie. I love that movie. It's really good.
Great movie. Okay, here's another one. My brother and I escaped from prison and are taking this preacher and his kids hostage so we can get across the border into Mexico.
Oh, damn. I'm going to need some hints for this one.
Where we are going to rendezvous with our contact at a bar called the Titty Twister.
My brother and I, is this... Ooh. Can you give me like an actor in it or something like that?
I will give you, okay.
Is it from Dusk Till Dawn?
It is from Dusk Till Dawn. Good job, John.
And I was thinking that was it, but I just was second guessing myself, but glad I said it.
No, follow your heart.
And that's one where I haven't seen it in a really long time, so I didn't really necessarily remember the plot of it.
Yeah.
But, that hint definitely helped.
Well, there's also the first half plot and then the second half plot.
Yeah.
Fun movie. I haven't seen it in a long time. All right. Are you ready for another? I have two more.
I got to say, Dan, this is
prepared.
exciting because usually I'm the one that's quizzing you, and it's fun. It's fun to be on the other side of it.
I know. Well, I know. And that's, every now and again, I need to give back. So this is me giving back. Okay.
By the way, I am not going to edit out any pauses. I'm going to try to keep the air alive with at least some sort of words, even if I don't know where I am. Okay.
Okay. All right. So here we go. I've got two more loaded up here. Here we go. I'm a janitor who's about to be fired and replaced with a robot. So I'm going to kidnap the daughter of the president of the company.
Can I just say it before you finish?
Yes.
It's A Life Less Ordinary.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't sure how familiar you were with that one because I don't believe we've talked about it ever, but
really?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever really talked about A Life Less Ordinary.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing about A Life Less Ordinary. That movie, Danny Boyle, Ewan McGregor, Cameron Diaz. There is a very popular movie podcast that I'm not going to mention by name that recently did an episode about that movie. And I was very excited because I was like, oh, great. I get to listen to people talk about this movie that I really enjoy. And they hated on it so hard, it made me so frustrated because they were complaining about things where I was like, well, certainly they can't complain about the music.
Right.
And they did. And they were just like, there's not like a good soundtrack or anything. I was like, are you kidding me?
I bought that.
Speaking of REM.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll tell you a podcast that will say nice things about A Life Less Ordinary.
Yeah,
this
ruined
one.
Mother effing childhoods.
Yeah,
Go
ruined
on.
childhoods. I saw Life Less Ordinary in the theater. Anyway, we will talk about A Life Less Ordinary another time. Okay, you ready?
I am.
One more. I have absolute faith you're not going to have any trouble with this one. So here
I'm amazed that I've been getting them so far.
I was really like A Life Less Ordinary. I thought was going to be the biggest challenge,
and I knew Inside Man. I just couldn't remember the name of it.
No. Well, when you said
that I knew
25th, when you said 25th Hour, it's like mid-aughts Spike Lee. You were
know.
like 1 year off.
I know. I was
in terms of the filmography. So okay, here we go. I need money to pay for my boyfriend's sex change. So
Dog Day Afternoon.
I know. Yes, Dog Day Afternoon. Of course. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start with Quick Change. I'm going to end with Dog Day Afternoon because
Dog Day Afternoon, it's great. When it comes
Attica, that's the Rodney King right there.
Yeah. When it comes to Al Pacino performances, I think that Dog Day Afternoon is among my favorites.
It's a standout.
Yeah.
It really is. It is, and I think he's got such a variety of work and so many wonderful performances in addition to so many that I think are terribly overrated. Scent of a Woman. I
thought about watching that the other day and I was like, nah.
That is exactly what happens to me every time I see that it's streaming. Like, oh, Scent of a Woman. Nope. Nope.
I could watch Scent of a Woman, or I could just watch something else, or not watch anything at all.
I get a couple of flashes and like Chris O'Donnell, and then just like Pacino going, oh, and I'm just like, no, if I want to see Al Pacino, I'll watch Devil's Advocate. Chris
O'Donnell of School Ties with Brendan Fraser. Was he in With Honors? Feels like he should be in With Honors.
Chris O'Donnell? No. It was Patrick Dempsey, Moira Kelly, Brendan Fraser, and I want to say there was a fourth. I know Joe Pesci was in it as well.
Josh Hamilton, Moira Kelly.
Is Josh Hamilton the one who I'm forgetting?
For some reason, like if you just slapped Chris O'Donnell on that poster of like them just kind of sitting there, nobody would notice.
No,
Chris O'Donnell would have been like, yeah, it makes sense that I would have been in that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I feel like that movie was kind of a precursor to Good Will Hunting because wasn't like Joe Pesci like a genius or something?
I don't think I ever even saw it, but it definitely is like they almost got it, and then Good Will Hunting was like, here we go.
Yeah, I don't remember they almost got it. I remember that movie being very mid.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
I remember because it was a PG-13 movie that came out in the mid-90s, so I saw it, and I just remember it being like it's a 2 to 2.5 star movie.
You know what, Dan? I'm reading the synopsis here on IMDb. It's a hostage movie. Convinced his thesis will have him graduate with honors from Harvard University, a stuffy student finds himself at the mercy of a homeless man's demands when he holds the papers hostage.
Oh, okay. All right. There we go.
So that is With Honors, and that's probably the first and last time we'll ever talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll come back to that. A Life Less Ordinary, however.
Yeah, I'd love to. Oh, Dan, good game.
Yeah, anyway, there were a couple of others that I was like Ransom is one. Speed,
Ransom,
The Rock.
Yeah, I'm curious how you would have approached those.
Well, with The Rock, it would have been like I served my country and I got a bum deal from them, so I am taking over this historic landmark and taking all of the visitors hostage until I get what I want. And you would have guessed it.
And of course, the greatest thing about that movie is that Ed Harris's, wife's headstone just says her name, and then it says his wife.
It's almost
it's like, it's his wife.
It's
Barbara
like
Hummel. I want to say
it's like the Zucker
Wait a second,
brothers.
I gotta look.
Barbara Hummel, yes. It's like the Zucker brothers came on set for one day. Like, I feel like that's like, you would just do that. You wouldn't even do a parody of that. Oh man, they're like, I feel like the Zucker brothers style doesn't, probably doesn't work as well anymore, but man.
No. That. I can't believe that I like recalling that her name is Barbara Hummel. I don't even like, if you asked me what's Ed Harris's character's name in The Rock, then I would have been like, I have no idea. What was his dead wife's name? Oh, Barbara Hummel.
His wife.
Yeah.
That's
wife.
Probably why you remember that.
Because the tombstone, it's just burned in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so one of the greatest images ever.
And I want to say, film. Yes. And one of the other things that I remembered about it is that she died on my birthday.
Oh.
She died on my 12th birthday. Yeah.
So you have that connection.
We have that connection. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So John, coming back to Airheads here.
Yeah.
All right. Like, all right. It's 2023 and people are rediscovering this movie and it's just part of the whole Renaissance. And what are you going to do with it? You're handed the reins.
I think that the Lone Rangers need to go on tour. We need to get Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler to just do like a New York, LA, Chicago tour. Kind
of like when Spinal Tap does gets together and does their thing. Yeah.
How much fun would it be? And they don't even need to be the ones playing the instruments or singing or anything like that, have a band backing them, like doing all that stuff. But how much fun would it be to have, because okay, what kind of a...
Sorry, would you pair it with a screening and a Q&A?
Of course. Yeah.
In character?
Oh, that'd be amazing. Now we're talking. A sequel to this, I don't think, I mean, maybe you have ideas, but I don't know if I'd care to see a sequel to this. It is, so nicely wrapped up at the end. I don't want to see them having failed. We know that they're getting out of prison soon and they're releasing a live in prison album or whatever. And so to me, that's like a great little end to it.
I also think we know that they're not... They've got a low ceiling, I think.
They're not destined for greatness.
No, they are not destined for greatness. This was this got them much higher than they would have gotten on their own. All due respect to them, but totally a dime a dozen, 5 years too late, Sunset Strip, not even metal band. Yeah. So I agree with you that a sequel would be it would be like the Saturday Night, Finding Chaz. What's he doing? I agree with you on that. Whereas if you set up, let's say you have, let's say you just set it up as a, entirely fictional thing, like the Lone Rangers celebrating the 30th anniversary of their takeover.
Yeah.
Goes on tour, and I don't know. Maybe I would say you pair it with a screening, because honestly, how you're going to spend money to buy a ticket, and you're going to sit there and watch. Like the charm is going to wear off pretty quickly.
No, I think that
a Q&A, on the other hand, would be fucking hilarious.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I imagine they would enjoy themselves doing it. Probably not more than a couple times, but to do something would be a lot of fun.
Just like McKean, Guest, and Shearer have done as Spinal Tap and the Folksmen.
And the Folksmen, yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. I would if it was like, this is coming to, I don't imagine this would be something that would be playing, like you'd go to I don't know what type of venue, but like I would buy tickets if this came to Seattle. I would definitely go see it. I mean, I don't think you're going to sell out an arena with it, but
yeah. I mean, what would you do if somebody handed you a ton of money to do something with this?
Boy, I didn't really have any solid ideas. I was thinking about it and I was like, do you do a 30 years later, like look back, like a documentary, like some type of, MTV looks back, except not MTV, like whatever,
right.
Like a Hulu documentary not about the movie Airheads, but about the Lone Rangers, and like, I don't know, take behind the scenes footage and then do interviews with the guys in character now. I think that was pretty much the peak of my ideas with this. I much prefer the idea of the in-person.
Here's the reality of it. This movie does not have a proper life at this moment. There's no, I think there might have been a Blu-ray release at one, like there's no there's nothing there.
No.
So to give it a, 30-year reunion, release where maybe they've, put it in through, they've, tweaked it or whatever, and give it a proper commentary track, give it
have
the
Beavis
love
and
it
Butthead
deserves.
do commentary on it. Hey,
Beavis and Butthead are back, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely, I mean, that was kind of, that was the other thing, was just like, I would like to see it more, available, or I don't know. It would be fun to go see it in a theater. Like, I often look at the movie listings and I'm just like, anything that I would be interested in seeing is like an hour longer than I would like it to be. And
yeah,
I'm like, meanwhile, this would be fun.
Totally.
I'd be like, whatever, I know I'm going to have a great time. And like, to see this movie with an audience of people who also appreciate it. Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of appreciation, I don't think that we gave Joe Mantegna the credit that Joe Mantegna deserves.
No, we did not. Thank you for bringing that up. We need to talk about Joe Mantegna.
When you think about, or, if you look at a lot of Joe Mantegna's roles over the course of his career, there are none that are like this. And the way that he pulls this off is brilliant. Uh-oh, is there an exception?
Well, okay, none that are like this. I'm going to say not like it, but similar. His role as Harry Flugelman in The Three Amigos. He's cool. In this, he's cool, but I would say, I would say it's different for me, because when I think Joe Mantegna, I think David Mamet, and I think of...
Sure.
Like,
so
more
you're thinking
series,
more
Godfather 3. He's the best part of Godfather 3.
So you're thinking more in the sense that he's doing comedy rather than what he typically does is drama.
No, but then in addition, I see I recognize your point here. Yes.
Because what he's playing is this DJ who's, just kind of going through the motions, and his life is not exciting anymore, and he doesn't give a shit about what he's doing, but there's actual excitement going on with these guys, and he likes them. Like, he appreciates them. And the fact that, like, his boss is, like, currently going through this time where he's being such a dick, to be able to kind of, like, link up with these guys is, like, his dream. It's exactly what he needs.
Well, also, as he finds out that the station is about to go easy listening.
Yeah.
So when something rock and roll happens. And it just goes back to the point of that the Lone Rangers' greatest achievement has nothing to do with their music. It's this like thing that they stumbled into.
It's their personality. It's their attitude. And that's what's so magnetic to everybody, including Ian.
Well, and that's the thing is and before bringing it back to Ian, just is that what makes Chaz, I think, a likable character is that he stumbles into this, but he takes advantage of it. And Ian does the same thing. And I love Joe Mantegna just seems to be having fun in this movie. He again feels genuine and just like loose. And I mean, I'm sure it's like, one of the most fun times he's ever had on a movie set, especially when he does all these, dramas. Yeah.
Also, we have, this movie has gifted us with so many little nuggets of beauty. The whole B. Arthur, outstanding. Just like there's so many little moments that I don't know, are fun. They stick into your head. They're fun.
I ain't farting on no snare drum.
Yeah.
It is. It's just a fun movie. And it's not a movie that I'm necessarily nostalgic for. It's not like I saw it when it came out in the theater. I watched it like on VHS or on cable, and I enjoyed it but didn't love it. So it's not like I have some like impenetrable nostalgia for it.
Right. But I feel like it's the movie that's aged really well, with the exception of a few word uses of things that are not okay.
Oh, definitely. Yes. That should be pointed out.
Of course. And it's something that I see in a lot of movies from this era. But the actors, it's a series of actors who are, of course, the main actors, non-problematic people who have gone on to have these amazing careers, and you just get so happy for them. And so that's why, like, 30 years later, it's great to watch this movie because you've seen what becomes of the actors in this, especially the three guys.
Yes.
And, for people who are just like, oh my God, it's, from Better Call Saul, and it's like it can really appeal to a modern day audience in that sense. And you just get so happy for them. And that's why we have a shirt on our TeePublic store that says, I'm just so happy for Brendan Fraser. And you can find a link to that TeePublic store, as well as like our social media channels and everything, in the link that's in the episode's description. And please email us if you have some thoughts about Airheads that you want to talk about, or any of the other movies that we've talked about on this podcast. ruinchildhoodspot@gmail.com.
I would be interested to see if we were to have a shirt available that said, you can't pluralize Lone Ranger. I'm curious to see, like, would that sell? Is there an audience for that, perhaps? How many people out there would really,
Well, I'm going to check TeePublic right now to see if they have The Lone Rangers shirt.
Like, I feel like it's that type of quote, just like that, without any type of context or explanation. I would wear that. I do need to get myself I'm so happy for Brendan Fraser.
There's someone who made The Lone Rangers The Hostage Tour 1994 shirt. There's one that says Rex and Pip and Chaz.
Okay.
That's the same store. There is another person who did make kind of like a Airheads fan art shirt. Hey, there's ours. I'm just so happy for Brendan Fraser.
Yay.
And then there's just a lot that are like from either the Lone Ranger OG or Army Hammer and Johnny Depp. The Lone Ranger.
Problematic.
Yes. Yeah, not great.
I never saw it.
I saw that one in the theater. I did. It's just a thing that happened.
It
We're
happened.
gonna have to deal with it.
It happened. Well, I think
Dan-
that was before we knew either anything that horrible about either of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Armie Hammer certainly went on for quite a while before we found out that he, yeah, not so great, not so great stuff. So, Dan, do you want to tell everybody what we're doing on our next episode?
Oh, how we're following up the 1994 cult comedy Airheads?
Yeah.
Why, of course, the next logical step would be 1989's Academy Award winning biopic, My Left Foot, the story of Christy Brown, which stars the great Daniel Day-Lewis as in his first Academy Award winning role.
Yeah.
First of 3. And he plays Christy Brown, the Irish artist who was born with cerebral palsy.
Artist and author.
Right. Yep. Because it's based on his memoir. And he, wrote and created using his left foot.
And playing his mother is Academy Award winning for this role actress Brenda Fricker, who we adore.
Yes, mostly for So I Married an Axe Murderer, but also My Left Foot.
She's also the pigeon lady in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Oh,
She's
yeah, but come on,
delightful. But we love her for So I Married an Axe Murderer. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I how can you see her and not imagine her, like, talking about how the Weekly World News is the paper?
Yes, the paper, dear.
Yes.
Well, Dan, as you are driving along the Sunset Strip trying to find Kayla, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.